Okay, my inspiration for today, it comes from my own life experience. And I remember when I was growing up, one of my desires was to become an interpreter to the United Nations, a Spanish interpreter to the United Nations. And as I was going along in school, I thought that I was doing what I needed to do. And I decided after I got into school, well, what happened is I had met some friends that lived in my complex at the time, and they spoke Spanish, and they were teaching me how to speak Spanish, and I was just kind of flowing with it. And after a while, when I would talk to people, they thought that I was also of a Spanish background, and so I thought when I got in school that I would probably carry that on, and I would learn even more about the language. And so I was entering into the ninth grade, and I decided I was going to ask my guidance counselor about being able to take Spanish as well. I didn't know it was an elective. He told me, he said, well, Spanish is an elective, and you have to be reading on a certain grade level. And I thought, okay. And he said, you're reading on a seventh grade level, and you're going into the ninth grade, so you would not qualify. And I thought, oh no, I'm not going to that. I got to overcome this. I'm not going to settle for that. And so I asked him, I said, well, what can I do to change that? And so he said, well, you could go to summer school. Well, of course, nobody likes to go to summer school because we as kids at the time, we like to have fun. We don't want to spend our time in summer school. And so I said, okay. And I signed up for summer school, had not even told my mother. And I came out of there reading on an 11th grade level going into the ninth grade. And I ended up I got to take the Spanish as an elective, but there was something that happened. And that was the beginning of my hunger to for reading books, and I just read everything I could get my hands on. And so today I'm going to be sharing with you. But what I want to tell you is that I believe, and I say this all the time, that anything that you want to know, you can find it in a book. Somebody has written about it. You just have to find a book. And so that will kick off my discussion with you today. Welcome to Clayton Communication and Publishing, our online Facebook online newsletter where we turn your stories into books. I am Coach Blondie, your host. And this week, as I said, we're going to focus on books, how books can improve and change your life. Because I had the privilege of having my life. I was really thinking about suicide at one point in time as a teenager. And I read this book, and I thought if she could go through that, then certainly I could keep going. And so I've become an advocate for how books can influence and they can improve or change your life. So the first book I want to talk about is called The Inner Child. And some of you may have seen it. I'm not sure how many pages it is. Hold on, I'll tell you in a second. It's over 248 pages, so it's rather thick, as you can see. But in this book, she talks about, first of all, the subtitle is What to Do When Your Past What to Do with Your Past When It Just Won't Go Away, and it's by Catherine L. Taylor. You may have heard of inner child healings. I know if you've gone through any of the AA programs or NA programs, they may have introduced you to the inner healing through those programs. Dr. Phil once said that you cannot heal what you're not willing to acknowledge, and I have become a firm believer of that in my as I have continued to coach women, many women over many years. If you have experienced, let's say, a childhood trauma or any type, this might be a good starting place for you. It's more self-directed. You can take it and work on your own, or maybe you can work with a friend or hire somebody to work along with you. She explains that the inner child is the one that carries our personal memories. It is the soul, our experiences, it is the soul and our experiences throughout our lives, our life cycle. And so whether you have experiences good or bad, they are stored, recorded in the soul and needs to be released or to be set free. And this is why a lot of and I'm speaking for women, a lot of women end up well, I can speak for men too, that a lot of men and women end up in their later, as they get older, with certain types of issues and addictions and habits, etc., fears, because something happened and it's never been addressed. So this is a type of book that you take that it helps you to dig into the subconscious mind, to bring the subconscious to the conscious so that you can receive your healing. And she walks through from infancy all the way into adult life. And so you might go on Amazon and look at it, and it may just be something that could help you. As I said earlier, books is something that I have over the course of my life have devoured because I struggled with reading for so many. Well, as a child, I struggled with reading, and once I got the hang of it, I was just hungry. And I remember something that one of the teacher who did the summer school program, she said, if you don't use it, you'll lose it. And so I've been using it ever since. Anyway, my second book is called Soul Care. Now, little did I know that I would be running a group called Soul Care presently at my church. And this book is by a gentleman named Peter Lord. And he opens the discussion with your worth. He focuses on worth and helping you to identify factors that help you as a reader to determine your worth. Because a lot of us operate in as we operate or go throughout our lives, we really struggle with our worth. We don't really know who we are. He says that, and I'll read it to you. He says that worth is determined by who the maker was because the identity and the qualifications of the creator can give value or lack of it to an object. And so he helps the reader to understand, who are you? Who created you? Let's look at your creator and see how you're created, what your value is to your creator. And of course, it is a Christian based book, a Christian foundation book, but nevertheless, the soul and the spirit, all there's information to be gathered, and all types of books can help us to get a better understanding. And as I said, and I'll share that with you a little bit later on. But have you ever wondered how the soul works? Well, Peter Lord addresses that in this book called Soul Care, how the soul works. Because I think there's been a lot of confusion over the years about soul and spirit. And so he spends some time in his first chapter kind of helping the reader to understand this is how the soul works and makes it pretty clear. Do you really know who you are? Well, this book leaves you, by the time you finish this book, you will have a good perspective of who you are, just in case you entered it just out of curiosity and not maybe hadn't thought about it or maybe wasn't sure of who you are. Peter helps the reader to understand why there are contradictions because, according to him, he says the old and the new butt heads. Well, that's not his words; those are my words from just reading through the book. If you're feeling stifled, like you should be happier, or why you are not happy and enjoying the best life ever, or the best life that has to offer you, well, it may be that your soul that your soul needs alignment or an adjustment. Yeah, maybe it's out of alignment with your creator. And a neglected soul can thrive, it can't thrive. And eventually it will affect you as you go through life. And so keep that in mind as you start thinking about your life and where you are and what you have been doing. As I said to you earlier, anything that you want to know, you can just about find it in a book. But you just got to be willing to find that book and also to read that book. And my next book is called Overcoming Occupational Burnout. Yeah, occupational burnout. All right. And this book is written, it's a practical guide for getting your life back on track. And it's written by a gentleman named Matthew Flynn. And in the book, the occupational uh, uh, overcoming occupational burnout by Matthew Flynn, How are you feeling about your job? Those are some questions to be answered. Is your job making you sick, or are you exhausted? Do you feel drained, or that you have no energy or desire to do your job any longer? Well, you may be experiencing occupational burnout. Maybe you hadn't thought about that term, but you know you're experiencing some symptoms of something. And so this book is a quick reference. As you can see, it's very small in size. It's not a very thick book. I think it's about 55 pages, so you could probably go through that in no time. And getting your life back on track is the aim of that. And not only that, the topics go from recognizing burnout to finding the cause of it and the role of sleep, food, and moving your body. And that means exercise, okay, in case you didn't know. But all of that he takes into consideration. He also goes over various techniques for meditation, relaxing, and so on and so forth. And that's kind of a big issue for many of us because we struggle with relaxation and because we're stressed out and we just keep sometimes rehearsing the same stresses over and over again. So if you're struggling with your job, this book can provide information and practical steps to conquer burnout now. And also you get a bonus in there. It also helps you to prevent burnout in the future. All right, my next book is called How to Stand Up for Yourself, Assertiveness, and Still Be the Win the Respect of Others. And so if you are one of those people and you having those struggles in your life and you cannot, maybe this is a question that I'm going to ask this question because this is how she starts the book. Her name is Judy Murphy, and she says, "Do you have a Are you having a hard time saying no to others? Do you feel as if you can't offer your real opinion on topics because it may create conflict? Do you lack the courage to speak for yourself?" Well, I used to be like that. Not anymore. Judy says that these are signs of low self esteem and lack of assertiveness. So relax. She says that it's not uncommon to feel this way, but you can get better. And so the book that she's written can help you to get better. As I said earlier, I said books can change or improve your life. If you don't like the way your life is going, then you may be able to find some answers in a book. Some author somewhere somehow has written that book that will address your issue. So what is the difference? And she even goes into the difference between assertiveness versus aggression. And she says that assertive people respect others' opinions and feelings, needs, and wants above their own. They find ways to avoid infringing on others' rights while asserting their own rights and seeking compromise. I've met a few of those. How about you? Okay, having trouble asserting yourself, learn how to stand up for yourself. And this book just might be your answer. So I think also what's interesting is not only does she touch upon that being assertive, but she takes it another step further to children dealing with difficult coworkers. So if you need help in any of these areas and you need someone to walk alongside you while you go through the material, just give us a call. Check us out. And my personal favorite is, of course, the Bible. And this is my Bible. This happened to be a special type of Bible for counseling. And I tell you what, I've been to the Bible a few times from Genesis to Revelation, and it has helped me tremendously to understand why things happen to good people and where I came from and why I do the things that I do. And I don't know about you, but it just might help you too. But this is my story, okay? This is my personal favorite, and that happens to be the Bible. And I learned also how to be kind to others and to build them up and to not tear them down. I also learned how to love those who are mean and wicked. I learned how to love them because I've decided that I wanted to do things that what I wanted to do is to walk in and live out my higher calling versus living out my lower calling. Anyway, and I also, because it's the sacred word of God to live by, it has changed how I see life. It has changed how I see others. It has changed how I treat others. And I believe, as I said earlier, that every book written can be a tool to lead and guide one into their greater purpose. I read many books before I read the Bible, and I still read many books. And I also, the Bible is still my favorite. So, well, I think that I've come to the end. I pray that something that I've said has maybe helped you in some way. And if it has, feel free to share it with your family and friends. Until next time, Coach Blondie signing off. Keep the faith.